Welcome to Tiny Track Cars, and today we have another Fast and the Furious tournament, but this time we have Dom versus Brian. That's right, we have Brian's iconic cars from the Fast and the Furious franchise racing against Dom's iconic cars from the Fast and the Furious movies. It's going to be 4-car groups. Let's go ahead and dive right in and meet our cars. We have 2 cars from Brian and 2 cars from Dom in every group. First up is the Mitsubishi Eclipse driven by Brian. Next up, we have Dom's Mazda RX-7. Next up, we have a Dodge Charger driven by Dom as well. And then we have a Yenko Camaro driven by Brian. Next up, we have Brian's famous R34 Skyline. Looking good. Who else is in this group? We have a Dodge Daytona driven by Dom. Those two are going to be racing against a Buick Grand National, also driven by Dom. And last in this group, we have Brian's Ford Escort. Group number 3 starts out with a Toyota Supra. That's Brian's Supra. Dom later acquires it, but it's Brian's. Racing against Dom's Charger. They will not be drag racing. This is not a 10-second track. This is a much longer track. Third, we have the newer Dodge Charger. And last, Brian's Ford Lightning with those spare parts in the back. Last group, we have the Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution racing against Dom's Ice Charger. Is that a real car? I'm not sure. It's definitely a Charger of some sorts. Then we have Dom's Chevy Nova. And last but not least in this tournament is Brian's 911 GT3 RS. First group goes to the line. If you're unfamiliar with our scoring, it is a 4-3-2-1 point system, and these cars rotate 1 car clockwise every single race, so everybody has a chance in each spot. We'll run 4 races here, and 2 drivers will move on. It's Dom in the RX-7 out front early. I want to tell you right now, that is a premium casting with a wheel swap, so that is a little bit heavier than normal. He takes first, Brian takes second, and Brian takes third, and then Dom takes 4th. Again, remember, this is not a car versus car battle. This is Brian versus Dom. Who's going to win in the end? Is it going to be one of Brian's cars, or is he going to be one of Dom's cars? The Mitsubishi Eclipse is out front early. He spins around backwards. Dom right in his front. I would say right in his tail, but he's right in his front because Brian's driving backwards. Classic Brian O'Connor school of driving in reverse across the finish line and collecting 4 more points. Wow, that Yenko Camaro just took off. We're off the line, but the top end of that RX-7 catches up to him real fast. That Camaro's faster on the turns despite being a muscle car, which I'm not sure how that happens, but maybe it's because these are little toy cars and not actually cars. Yenko Camaro takes first, RX-7 takes second, then we have a Charger and Eclipse close for a third, fourth, but Brian loses just a little bit to Dom in that Charger. Now they rotate. Dom in the far lane in the RX-7. A Camaro in the close lane driven by Brian. I don't know how Brian's driving 2 cars at the same time and Dom's driving 2 cars at the same time, but it's happening here in Tiny Track Cars land. Whoa, Brian gets T-boned right there by Dom, pulling a dirty move. Brian's backwards, all 3 of them are backwards. Who's gonna cross the finish line first? No one can see. It's Brian, Dom, then Brian, I think. Let's not watch the replay and just watch the scoreboard after this. Head to the scoreboard, and with 13 points moving on, it's Dom in the RX-7, and 12 points moving on, it's the Yenko Camaro driven by Brian, which he acquires by drag racing. And they took the cars, they took the pink slips. Next up, we have the famous R34 in the pole position. He's in the far lane there. Dodge Charger Daytona in the close lane. Is that long wheelbase Daytona gonna do good in this track? So far, he's not doing so hot. But Brian's R34 is doing hot, because damn, that's a hot car. He's down into the last turn. Into the finish lane he goes. He's notorious for wrecking in the last stretch of this track, but he runs a clean race to the finish line and takes 4 points. Watch out for that Buick Grand National. It's fast. In qualifying, it was quick, but is it any competition to Brian's R34 Skyline? He's right in his tail after Brian screws up just a little bit. Down in the last turn, the R34 takes a second race, then the Grand National. Then Brian in the Escort decides to smash some civilians there, spectators, and some camera crew on the side of the track. I hope everyone's all right. My condolences if anyone does die. I hope you signed your waivers, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you signed your waivers. Go to tinytrackcars.com to find your waiver and fill that out, which really is a lead magnet for me collecting your email address. Actually, I'm just kidding. There's no waivers on my website. But you can go to tinytrackcars.com and learn more about Tiny Track Cars and how we got started, and visit other social media channels and merch that we have and display cases and all that fun stuff over there on our website. But there is no waivers yet. All right, next race, we have Brian in the Escort way out in front. He's flying. The camera guy can't even keep up with him. But the Buick Grand National, or some people call him a GNX, is right there in second place. Escort, GNX, Daytona, R34 is the order they come in. Who's got the points to move on? We find out right now. It's Brian in the R34 and the Buick Grand National, driven by Dominic Toretto himself. Those two move on in the bracket. Beautiful looking bracket. Then we go to group number 3 over there in the top right. We have the famous 2JZ No Shart Toyota Supra in that far lane in orange. That is a 10-second car. You know that because they drag raced and Dom wrecked his Charger and then took over Brian's car. Did we ever see that car ever again? I think that was the end of seeing the the Toyota Supra in the franchise. I'm not really sure. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Is that the last time we saw Brian's Supra in a Fast and Furious movie? Watch out for that Hellcat Charger. That thing is mean on the track and off the track as well. I don't know what that means. In parking lots or in the streets, or is he gonna take it off-roading? This is not Tokyo Drifts. Dom, stop drifting around, spinning around, showing off. But despite all those fancy tricks, you do take first. And Brian in the Lightning smashes into the bleachers. Dang. That is a premium casting as well. We had to do a wheel swap on that to get Brian in this race, in that Lightning. But it was such an iconic car that we had to include it in here. But these main lines, these basic cars, are proven to be just as fast as these premiums, folks. It's just hit or miss on these castings. There's such inconsistencies in these little plastic parts coming from Malaysia. Some are fast and some are slow, from same casting to same casting. You just never know. That's why we wheel farm. All right, rotate one position. It's Dom in the Charger out front, Brian right in its tail. I believe that Supra is faster than that Charger, but it's the Lightning that we have to look for, and the Dodge Charger Hellcat right in his tail. Hellcat cuts off the other Charger, which is Dom, cutting off Dom, which is a bad choice for business. The Hellcat slides into the audience and spins around and takes second place. And the points for this race is Dom moving on with the Charger Hellcat and Brian moving on in that Ford F-150 Lightning from the Racer's Edge Garage. Last but not least, is it the least? Last? No, it's pretty evenly matched. Whoa, the Evo gets on 2 wheels. Is that car going to be too top heavy? Is it going to be able to make the turns? It's the Ice Charger show out here, folks. Ice Charger is blazing fast, but we know that 911 GT3 RS is fast on this track. That is a 996 with the ugly headlights, and that casting has particularly round corners up front, makes it good for launching around these spool heads, track piece corners. Evo out front in this race, followed by the Ice Charger. The Evo pulls a nasty move, but slings it into turn number 3. He's still out in front, followed by the Ice Charger. The Porsche 911 passes after the Ice Charger, makes a little bit of an oopsie, and takes second place. It's Brian, Dom in that one. That Nova's not looking very good. That's the case with the American muscle cars kind of didn't get any modifications, because old American muscle cars, let's be honest, they're just kind of heavy slugs. Unless you do a little bit something to them, they're just kind of boats. You got a lot of power, but you're just kind of bleh. But you added some stuff on there, some bolt-ons, and man, those things really come to life. All right, next race, Ice Charger in the pole position. Will the Ice Charger be able to take this one, or will it be the 911, which we know is fast, and he has nobody in front of him going down the track? The 911 is putting on a show out there for us. No one is even in sight. Just kidding. The Ice Charger is there. Will the Ice Charger pass across the finish line? It's 1 car length win by Brian in the 911. And somehow, the Chevy Nova was able to get 3rd place. All right, it's Ice Charger moving on with 12. That's a Dom car. And a 911 GT3 moving along with Brian. Well, Brian's moving along with the car. We have, in the first group, we have a Dom, Brian situation. The same outcome or the same odds is in round number 1, but who will win round number 2? We know that Yenko Camaro is fast. The RX-7 is fast. The R34 is fast. And don't leave out that Buick Grand National, because we've seen it do some crazy things out here in this track. Whoa! the Camaro a little bit too top heavy, and he rolls over into the turn. But can anyone get by him? He's on his roof, and he slides across the finish line and takes first place. He slid down half the track on his roof, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you always wax your dome. Dom out front in race number 2, but it's Brian into turn number 2 that takes the lead. In turn number 3, Brian is still out in front. Into the last turn, will Brian be able to hold it together? Will Dom take the win? It's a Brian-Dom finish. This is getting close, folks. It seems like we're trading off wins, and no one knows who is going to be the winner of this tournament. Is it going to be Brian? Is it going to be Dom? Who are you rooting for? Let us know in the comments. Are you a Brian fan, or do you like Dom? Dominic Toretto. It's Brian, Dom, Brian in this one, and unfortunately more spectators got the grunt of that crash. But they'll get back up, and they'll be back there next time. It's just me every race. Every time someone gets hit, I'm down there with my fat fingers trying to stand up little people. Until next time, when these dang cars fly down the track again and smash them, and I have to do it all over again. It's the Yenko Camaro again out in front. Man, that thing is fast. Oh, look. I didn't do my job. I didn't put the people back up. Ned's gonna get fired. We need a new announcer. I'm putting applications out on Fiverr, Upwork, and LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, folks. Other than 3D printing not printing the third number 11, we have a 3-way tie at 11 points. And when we have a 3-way tie, it's not a race-off. We run 3 laps. These drivers rotate 1 position every lap, and the person with the leading points will move on. In this case, it's the person with the 2 people with the leading points, because 2 cars have to move on. Other than Brian's R34 being kind of silver, this is kind of like a red, white, and blue. American, well, the only American car in this race is that Yenko Camaro. But Brian's R34 is clearly the fastest one in this group. Will Brian's R34 be able to win this entire tournament? I know there are some R34 fans out there. If you are an R34 fan, put your hands in the gosh darn air, and then like this video and subscribe, and also let me know in the comments, because that's the only way I'm really gonna know if it's you. And I'll read your profile name, and I'll say, hey, thanks for letting me know who you think is gonna win. Thanks for being part of Tiny Track Car's awesome community. We love you being here. And that's the end of this little grouping. Which 2 move on? I'm gonna tell you right now, it is Dom in the RX-7 and Brian in that Yenko Camaro. The Yenko Camaro is proving to be a force to be reckoned with. I reckon it is. All right, who's gonna join Brian and Dom? Brian has a car in the finals. Dom has a car in the finals. Who will join them from this group? It's Brian out front in the Nissan. There's no Nissan in this race. That is a Ford Lightning. But it's the Hellcat who's showing us that, dang, holy cannoli, that thing's fast. Even putting a hurt on the Ford F-150 Lightning and the Porsche, who comes around the back in the finish line in reverse, which clearly something happened to him, because we know that car is one of the fastest cars to see this track, which is changing, by the way. The jump came back for a couple videos, and then we're changing the format again. By the time you see this video, it'll be weeks ahead of time, and the track has already changed multiple times. But folks, the racing is going to continue. More and more track combinations, more and more races. We're going to keep on keeping on here in these quick tournaments that all happen in one video. Do you guys like it when you see one tournament and you see the winner of the tournament at the end of the tournament? Let me know in the comments if you like this format where you can pick a car in the beginning of the tournament and watch the whole entire thing into the entirety of the video to the end, when you know if your car won or not, or in most cases, your car probably got eliminated in the first round because you picked the pretty car and it did really bad on the track. Speaking of doing bad on the track, there's more dead people at the finish line. Folks, we're rotating 1 position and the Porsche whipping around those corners. Holy cannoli, the camera can't even keep up with him. Is he going to be able to execute into the open track? We know he's fast in the lane section, but he does a side-to-side drift down across the finish line. He takes first, Brian takes second, Dom takes third, and that's... Oh, there's the ice charger. Maybe he was frozen at the finish line. Let it go. Not that frozen. Frozen because the ice. And the submarine. Remember that scene? Where the unrealistic scene? Oh, we have a tie between the Ice Charger and the 911. The Ice Charger, because he won more races, takes the faster lane, which is that far lane. He's going to take the inside right here. They're side by side. The 911 beats him just slightly into that turn. We know that 911 is super fast in that lane section, but it gets a little squirrely, as you can see right there in this open track. Sometimes too fast for this open track is actually worse. Ask Blue Line. He knows. He's too fast for diecast tracks sometimes. But it's all in good fun, guys. And it's Dom moving on, and Brian moving on. We have 2 cars for Brian and 2 cars for Dom. Everybody in this race, which is only 2 people, has a chance, a 50-50 chance, at winning this gosh darn Fast and the Furious Dom versus Brian tournament. Will the Yenko Camaro be able to hold it out? Will it be the Porsche? Will it be the RX-7, which is a premium casting? Or it will be the Hellcat Charger that does not do very good on most tracks because of its wide stance. But this track is actually built for 155 scale cars, aka Pixar cars, and semi-trucks, and Hot Wheels, and basically anything we want to run on it. So that fat butt Hellcat is just fine on this track, and clearly it's just fine because it's outrunning one of the fastest cars we've seen in 911. But the 911, as I say that, the 911 outruns the Charger and takes the win after a sweet epic pass in turn number 5. And now that 911 will be out there in the pole position, will he be able to pull out ahead of the Charger? In that second turn they go. Actually, that's probably not a second turn. I forgot that that's not really turn 2 because there's a 90 and a 180 and another 90. Anyways, whoa, what just happened there? Brian bounces off the ambulance and then almost loses, but Dom hits the back of Brian's Porsche and launches him across the finish line. Brian takes 4 more points in that Porsche. That thing has 8 points, and 8 points is a good start to winning. But will he put any more on the board? I know he wants to. Whoa, holy cannoli! He just hit that wall and took off like a rocket. Down across the finish line it goes. The Camaro rolls it over as he crosses the finish line. We needed a slow motion replay on that, but we did not get one. And folks, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Dom versus Brian tournament is Brian in the Porsche 911 GT3 RS with 13 points. But we have a tie for second. And you know what? We're not going to leave you here. We're going to give you some bonus footage. This is a bonus race to see who takes second place between Brian in the Camaro and Dom in the Charger Hellcat. Brian, because he got better position, better finishes, takes the pole position, but Dom in that Charger Hellcat was able to inch him out as they merge into the open track, and dang, that Camaro flipped over again, and Dom takes second place in that Hellcat Charger. But it's Brian in the 911 that wins this race and wins the Brian versus Dom challenge. If you want to watch more of our races, click right here in the center of the screen. Thank you so much for being here. We love you, and see you in the next one.